Why did they release people into the interior of the United States and put them, rather than put them into an ICE bed? Why not put them in an empty ICE bed, $127 a night, rather than in a hotel room at $500 a night?
It was a plan. It was a plan to replace Americans with third worlders. They were losing Americans as their constituents. 20% approval right now for the Democrat Party. They needed new voters. Americans weren't going to vote for them. So they're bringing in third worlders. And for those of you who say, well, illegal immigrants can't vote. First of all, they do vote. They do vote. It may be against the law, but they do vote. Second of all, even if they didn't vote, their bodies count for purposes of apportioning congressmen. So the Democrats have 20 or 30 congressional seats they would not have, but for the presence of 100 million illegal criminal migrants in our country. It's a scheme. It's a scheme to kill America, as our founders created it and as most of us lived it. My name is attorney Andrew Branca, and I've worked more than 30 years as a self-defense attorney. Every state has seemingly endless, complex pages of laws regarding self-defense, so complex that many top criminal defense attorneys rely on my expert analysis to help win self-defense cases for their clients. If the legal code is that complex for lawyers, how can a citizen gun owner expect to know or even follow the law, especially when a life or death situation has triggered a massive adrenaline-fueled mandate to make that fight or flight decision right now? It seems daunting. Yet I created a simple but powerful framework that has allowed me to serve the legal community and countless American gun owners to simplify this legal complexity into just 5 elements of self-defense law. And you can learn my 5-element legal algorithm I use to consult on and win with the top criminal defense attorneys all over the country to protect law-abiding, gun-owning citizens from making innocent legal missteps that land them in prison. Now, with a simple read or listen, you can install my 5-point legal framework so it acts as a sort of muscle memory defense to protect you from losing your rights when you choose to defend innocent human life. Click below to get the latest edition of my book, The Law of Self-Defense Principles, for free. I ask only that you help cover the shipping and handling cost to get the book to you.
We have a station up in Rochester, New York. It was reported you're visiting there tomorrow. Can you talk a bit about the purpose of your trip? I know the Trump administration is suing the city over its sanctuary city policies, how the executive order Caroline alluded to ties into it, and what your message is for communities and community leaders who say, we're able to establish our own rules here. We're worried about this input from the federal level. Can you talk a bit about that?
Well, same thing I talked about earlier. I don't think any elected mayor, any elected governor should want public safety threats, those illegally in the United States, public safety threats, walking through the community. And what happened in Rochester, HSI agent called for emergency assistance.
Homeland
Officers
Security.
of Rochester PD responded to a call from emergency assistance from a federal law enforcement from a federal law enforcement officer. They responded, then they got disciplined. I don't think anybody can come up with one instance where an ICE agent or Border Patrol agent didn't respond to an emergency call from assistance from any law enforcement agency. Cops need to help cops, especially in an emergency situation. But they got disciplined. And I met those officers down in Nashville soon after that. I think it was a couple of days after it. And I told them I stand with them. They did the right thing. Law enforcement responding to emergency assistance from law enforcement. So I'm going up there to support the men and women law enforcement, the men and women who carry that badge and gun every day. They're working the streets at 2 a.m. while we're all sleeping. I'm going to give my support. And they just announced a lawsuit. And that's one of many. Sanctuary City is going to be sued on this administration for flouting immigration law.
Good.
I mean, the law is clear. And they're violating it. And this administration is going to take actions. I'm going up there to show my support of men and women law enforcement. I started as a cop. And the community, I'm showing support for them. Because the community wants their police officers to be officers too. The communities don't want public safety threats walking around their communities either. And that's what it's all about. And that's why I'm going.
All right. Next Tom Homan clip. That's absolutely right. We got to get these safety threats out of our communities. 100% with him. 100% with him there. Here's the next one.
As far as releasing so many people, you know why the Biden administration released millions of people in the United States? No one ever talks about it. I'll talk about it. Why did they release people into the interior of the United States and put them, rather than put them into an ICE bed? Why not put them in an empty ICE bed, $127 a night, rather than in a hotel room at $500 a night?
It was a plan. It was a plan to replace Americans with third worlders. They were losing Americans as their constituents. 20% approval right now for the Democrat Party. They needed new voters. Americans weren't going to vote for them. So they're bringing in third worlders. And for those of you who say, well, illegal immigrants can't vote, first of all, they do vote. They do vote. It may be against the law, but they do vote. Second of all, even if they didn't vote, their bodies count for purposes of apportioning congressmen. So the Democrats have 20 or 30 congressional seats they would not have, but for the presence of 100 million illegal criminal migrants in our country. It's a scheme. It's a scheme to kill America, as our founders created it and as most of us lived it.
They did it on purpose because when you put them in ICE detention bed, they get a hearing in 35 days. Court records show 9 out of 10 people claim asylum, get order removal, they're gone. But if you release them and put them in a hotel room at $500 a night, their hearings can be 5, 7, 9 years if you pull out all appeals. And what are they hoping for then? That another Democrat administration is in power.
$500 a night for hotels. That of course is a drop in the bucket of the amount of resources we expend on these illegal criminal aliens. You want to know what it would be like to live in an America that was like the 1980s again? Get rid of 100 million illegal criminal migrants who are consuming scarce American resources like locusts, education, medical, housing, jobs, all of it. That's how we get back to an America that those of us of a certain age might recognize again.
They can award an amnesty to millions. This is about selling this country off for.
Oh, that's another point. The Democrats were openly talking about it before Kamala Harris imploded their presidential aspirations. They intended to fast track, bring in tens of millions of migrants just in the last few years. Just in the last few years. This is Joe Biden, President Joe Autopen Biden, whoever was running this guy. Obviously, it wasn't actually him. He had no idea what he was doing. This. And that's just Venezuelans, Nicaraguans, and Haitians. This is Joe Biden. That's why we're doing this, because whoever was pulling his marionette strings came damn close to destroying America. Damn close. And thank God we have Tom Homan talking about it. They were going to take that huge bolus of purple there and make them instant American citizens. Folks, a nation is not the dirt. There is no magic dirt that turns Haitians with an average IQ of 75 into American citizens that we would recognize. Nothing. If you import millions of third worlders, you create the third world here. I notice most of us are not moving to go live in the third world. I presume most of us don't want to live in the third world. We certainly should not be recreating the third world in the greatest nation on earth. But that's what the Democrats and Biden were intending to do. That's why the Democrats are still intending to do. That's why they freak out every time we deport one of these illegal criminal migrants.
Not maybe, not think of millions. This is about selling this country off for future political power.
That's right.
That's what it was. The law clearly says if you arrive at our border without proper documentation, you shall be detained. Not maybe, not think about it, shall. And that's what President Trump's doing. Catch and release is over.
Catch and release is over, baby. Over. Next clip.
If you enter this country legally, it's a crime. If you remain in this country legally and you ignore a judge's order about deporting, if you choose to have a U.S. citizen child, knowing you're in this country legally, you put yourself in that position. You put your family in that position. What we did is remove children with their mothers who requested the children depart with them. This was a parental decision. Parenting 101.
Remember the last week of lies? Oh my God, Trump's deporting a 2-year-old American citizen. The horror of this president. You don't hate the media enough. However much you hate the media, you don't hate them enough. They lie and lie and lie. If they didn't have lies to tell, they'd have nothing to say at all. The family that deports together is the family that stays together. I have a little image for that too. This is what's actually happening. We have an illegal criminal migrant mother who chooses to have a child in America. She gets deported. She was given the choice. You can take your child with you, or you can find a custodian here in the U.S. And that's pretending the child is an American citizen. We don't know this child is an American citizen. She's not an American citizen just because she was born here. There's no such thing as birthright citizenship in American law. Not under the 14th Amendment, there isn't. Unless one of her parents is an American citizen, she inherits the nationality of her illegal criminal migrant parents.
What, if we didn't do it, the story today, the mothers made that choice. And I tell you what, if we didn't do it, the story today would be Trump administration separating families again. No, we're keeping families together. So when a parent says, I want my 2-year-old baby to go with me, we made that happen. They weren't deported. We don't deport U.S. citizens. The parents made that decision, not the United States government. But I don't hear any questions about Lake and Roddy had a mother. She's never going to see her child again. Rachel Morin, she had 5 children. Those children are never going to see their mom again.
Yep, absolutely. Next clip of the great border czar, Tom Homan.
I take a pleasure in seeing it because in 40 years of doing this job, people always want to say, why are you so emotional when you testify? Why are you so emotional on network? Because if they wore my shoes for 40 years, they'd understand why I'm emotional. I've talked to little girls as young as 9 years old, or raped multiple times by the cartel members. And when you get to your knees and you talk to that little girl and everything.
These are the monsters that the Democrats want to import into our communities so they'll have more congressional seats, so that they can fast track into American citizens to vote against us.
Innocent and pure has been ripped from her. When you listen to the Lake and Riley, 17 minutes, that young lady fighting for her life. Don't just think, okay, a young woman died. Think of how she died, the terror that she went through. And these children are sexually assaulted. I stood in back with tractor trailer and 19 dead people at my feet that baked to death. Illegal immigration is not a victimless crime. And so every sick person we take off the streets, especially child rapists, it makes this country much safer. Every illegal alien we arrest, public safety threat, one at a time, makes this country safer.
The Democrats want these people, these monsters, to be the new Americans. The new Americans. Here's just an ex-post by Tom Homan. Nobody should be surprised by the arrest of 2 judges. We're going to transition in a moment to Judge Hannah Diner Dugan of the Wisconsin Diner Dugans. Nobody should be surprised by the arrest of 2 judges. I've said many times within the past few months, this is Tom Homan, that people can choose to support illegal immigration and not assist ICE in removing criminal illegal aliens from our communities, but don't cross that line. If you actively impede our enforcement efforts, or if you knowingly harbor or conceal illegal aliens from ICE, you will be prosecuted. These actions are felonies. More to come. And he spoke on that a little bit as well.
I said from day one, you don't have to support ICE's operations. You can support sanctuary cities if that's what you desire to do. Sanctuary cities can stand aside and watch ICE keep their communities safe, because any public official, whether you're mayor, city councilman, or governor, their number one responsibility is protection of the communities. And ICE has been clear, we're targeting public safety threats and national security threats. I can't believe there's any elected official, and especially a judge, that doesn't believe we should be doing that, and they should be helping us. What I said from day one, you can sit aside and watch, you can argue against us all you want and protest all you want, but when you cross that line, I've said this 1,000 times, when you cross that line to impediment or knowingly harboring, concealing an illegal alien from ICE, you will be prosecuted.
Thanks for watching this highlight segment of our full-length Law of Self-Defense live stream. If you enjoyed this content, make sure to give us a like and subscribe for more expert analysis on politics, law, and how to be hard to convict. And to watch the full-length episode of this show, just click right here. Stay safe.